Hello, welcome back to Breastfeeding Answers That Work. My name's Dawn. I want to welcome you back to my channel. If you are new, you might want to take a look at the intro video that talks a little. I talk a little bit about myself and the purpose of the videos, and some of my experience. Also, I give you our empowerment statement for this channel. So this is your empowerment statement that you need to remember and think about in your mind. It's be patient, be persistent, and to be proud. So you start with being patient because it takes time. For you and baby to learn to breastfeed could take several days up to several weeks. Once you learn, then you get better and better. The baby gets better and better, and breastfeeding becomes very easy. But at first, it could take several days, several months. Some babies get it right away, and you might have one baby who struggles and struggles, and it took you a while, and another baby who catches on very quickly. So it just depends on the baby. It depends on mom, and you just want to be patient with yourself and with the baby. And so when these challenges arise and you're being patient, you also have to be persistent, which is the second part of the statement. You don't want to give up. It takes time, like I said, and you will have challenges. But if you continue at it, you'll get better and better. So you don't want to give up, because being persistent means that no matter what happens, you are going to keep fighting. Think of it like learning to ride a bicycle. It takes time, and you might fall and get some scrapes and bumps along the way, but you become better and better, and you're more experienced. So that's the same with breastfeeding. And when you're persistent, you will definitely get rewarded at the end, because you're going to be better and better at it, and so is the baby. So then now we get to the third point, which is to be proud. So that's important, because once you've started giving your baby breast milk, the baby is benefiting. So that baby you're lowering the risk of SIDS, you're lowering risks of diabetes, you're lowering risks of ear infections, you're lowering risks of obesity. So those are all the benefits you are giving your baby, and it's not just immediate benefits. It's going to last until they're adults, the rest of their lives. As the same for you. When you breastfeed, you're lowering risks of cancers for mom, such as uterine, ovarian, some of those cancers. You're lowering that risk. And every baby you breastfeed, and for how long you breastfeed, you're lowering that risk even more. You lower risks of diabetes. You lose the weight of the baby quicker because you're burning more calories. Of course, this is long as you're eating healthy. You don't have to eat anything special, but you don't want to overeat, and then you're not going to really find yourself losing if you do that. Like for me, I never lost weight breastfeeding, but I didn't gain either. But I did find myself eating a lot of junk. Like I was craving cookies and milk, after them for some reason. So you just want to make sure that you remember that as well. You have some pain, a little bit of uterine pain when you're breastfeeding. A lot of women will feel that. The first time, it's not so much. The second time, you might feel it even more. But that's just your uterus contracting and going back down to size quicker. So whenever you breastfeed, it automatically is shrinking your uterus. So that shows you how natural it is for a mom to breastfeed, because it's part of the cycle of mom's uterus going back down to size. If you don't breastfeed, then you will it will take you a little longer to lose that baby weight, and it will take a little longer for the uterus to go back down to size. You have a little more post-bleeding, that kind of thing, just because you're not getting that stimulation at the breast to tell the hormones to release, to contract that uterus and get it back down to the normal size. So today is part one about milk supply. So there's probably going to be quite a lot of topics under the milk supply subject, because there's a lot of things that come into play when you're trying to understand milk supply, whether it be to increase it, to know how much you have, or just to know if baby is getting enough. So I'm going to start with understanding how the breast makes milk. It's good to kind of think of it simply as a supply or demand. As long as the baby is demanding it at the breast, the body is going to make it. Usually it takes about 3 days after you have the baby for the breast to recognize that now it's time to make this milk. So before that third day, you want that baby breastfeeding as much as possible, even if it's just for a few minutes. You want them on the breast. Now, during those 3 days, they are getting milk. Your body starts to produce milk at somewhere around the 4th month of pregnancy. So your body is already making this milk. It's just a very thick milk, like honey. So you may not see it. You probably won't feel it. Some women do see it, but a lot of times you don't. So it's normal either way. Don't be concerned either way. But it is there, and the baby does get it. And the reason it's so thick, it's full of antibodies. It's full of nutrients for the baby, because it understands that it's going to take time for you and the baby to learn to breastfeed. So it makes sure that just those few sucks, that baby's getting a whole feeding, basically. All the nutrients, the fat, all that the baby needs is going to be given in just a couple of drops. The baby's stomach is only the size of a very small marble, so the baby doesn't need very much, especially in those first 24 hours. But the baby does need to be at the breast as often as possible, because that's where the baby's saying, okay, I need milk. And the body will then, by the 3rd day, your milk will increase. And when the milk increases, your breasts will feel fuller, and they will maybe be painful, but you don't really want to take all that milk out. You want the baby to take what the baby needs, and you most likely will have to hand express a little bit of that out so the baby can latch on, because you'll find the baby latches okay maybe the first couple of days, and then your milk comes in, the baby can't latch. But that's because your breast is so full that it can't get a good grip of the nipple and the skin around it. So you just have to soften enough that you can take your fingers and kind of squeeze the areola, darker skin. When you can grab it with your fingers, a little bit of amount there, then the baby can. And that's what the baby needs in order to get the milk to come out. They need to latch correctly. So if it's really, really full and hard, they're not able to do that. So you're going to have to hand express, and you can pump if you have a pump, but sometimes it's hard to pump colostrum and you don't want to make it more swollen. So hand expression is the best way to go when it comes to that. So the breast, the way it makes milk, you have 2 hormones. One produces and one releases. So prolactin, think of it like produce and prolactin. So prolactin produces your milk. So when you have the baby, your prolactin is released, letting the body know, okay, we need to make this milk, the baby's born. Of course, it doesn't know that until you put the baby to the breast, so you need to make sure that you get that baby to the breast. Now, it does understand there are hormones that are released to let the baby know that mom's in labor and, the baby's going to be born. It's oxytocin, that's your second hormone to remember, that releases milk. So you need both hormones to produce and to release milk. If you're extremely stressed or overwhelmed, you will find that one of those hormones may not work, because, like, for instance, oxytocin is a hormone that's released when we laugh, when we cry. It's an emotional type of hormone. So if we're really stressed and overwhelmed, it can cause a disruption in your milk release, and you don't want to do that. So you got to try to relax and not overly worry. And again, our empowerment statement: be patient and persistent. So you also have the milk ducts are there in your breast, and you have pimple-like bumps around your nipple, and those bumps secrete an oily substance that protects the nipple. Also, what's interesting about that is the baby's saliva mixes with that oily substance, and it tells the breast, this is the type of milk I need. I need more fat. I'm lower in this specific vitamin, so we need to increase that. I have a cold or a little infection, so I need some antibodies to fight it. So it's really interesting how your baby's saliva mixed with your oily substance actually communicates to the brain what kind of milk we need released to the baby. And so it produces that. So it's a really, really amazing thing they found that the body does. It just naturally knows what that baby needs. So that's very interesting about those little bumps. So that's normal. And then your nipple, there's not just one opening. There's multiple openings for the milk to release out of the nipple. So the baby gets that milk. And just remember supply and demand. That's very, very important. And the more you breastfeed in those first few days, the better. And also, just to kind of throw in there, whenever the breast is empty, you feel it's empty, that's great for a baby to suck on it, because it tells the brain it's empty and I still want milk, so please make more. And it usually takes about 24 hours for your breast to respond to that. So you'll find that your breast will increase if a baby is on the breast more often. They also have to be getting enough of that milk out, so they have to be latched correctly in order to get the milk out for the body to know how much the baby is taking. So that's important to know about the breast and how it works. So I like to use an example of like factories, because when somebody decides to make, let's say they want to make shoes, and they have this high demand, they start opening all these stores everywhere. But and so people are buying, but if people stop buying, then they start closing down. So in those first few weeks, your body is laying receptors. They're sort of like storage units for the milk. And the more that baby breastfeeds, the more receptors are laid in the breast. So that's it. We want as many receptors as possible, because those are those storage units. It will produce enough milk in the breast to feed the baby. Now, a mom who doesn't get enough of those receptors laid doesn't mean that she won't be able to breastfeed her baby. It just means she might have to breastfeed more often because she has less storage in the breast. So you might find the baby eating a little bit more because there's not as much in the breast at that time. But typically anyway, breastfed babies do feed every hour and a half, because the breast milk is made specific for them. And so as soon as they eat, the body takes everything that it needs, the nutrients and everything, the fat. So everything the baby needs, it gets distributed, and it's out of the belly by 90 minutes. So that's why babies tend to feed pretty often, breastfed babies. And this is where the higher IQ point comes in, because the more the baby's awake, the more the brain is developing. And so when it starts developing at an early age, the higher their IQ as they grow. So that's where that higher IQ comes in. Just a quick, for anybody that's new out there, I breastfed and I formula fed. So you will never see me on this video bash formula or discourage a mom or make a mom feel guilty if she's giving formula, because we're here to help mom, and I want moms to be empowered. So that means a mom needs to be confident in herself, and she can't feel bad if she's not able to do something. And there are some moms out there that struggle, and it's important to listen to those moms and support those moms too. So I just kind of wanted to mention that for any of you that are new, because I did talk about that in the intro video, but I want you also to know and pass that on, so that moms know that they will never feel ashamed, embarrassed, or guilty, and I'll never bash formula. So, I will tell you honest things about formula, but I won't bash it, because, like I said, I used it and I understand why some moms may have to use it. So that's the video that will talk about how the breast works. If you have questions, feel free to leave comments and email. Again, subscribe to my channel if it's your first time. And then we will talk part 2 about milk supply. And we will learn a little bit more about how the breast makes milk and what you can do to increase it, as well as how to know if baby is getting enough. So look forward to part 2 of the milk supply. And you all have a great day. Thanks for watching.